Alright, so I'm back with yet another quick Pauper deck tech. So the list I've been having some fun with lately is a mono-white Convoke deck, which basically aims to fill the board with lots of little creatures quickly, and then use them to power out more creatures and ideally bigger creatures. And then once we've flooded the board, our main win con is to pump the team with the Sorcery Righteous Charge, which is 3 mana, and it says creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn. So when our board is just flooded with small creatures, this is often tripling our damage or close to it. So this is essentially the slower sorcery speed version of the card Guardian's Pledge, which gives only white creatures +2/+2. But in this deck, we are also running colorless artifact creatures, so we want to be able to buff all of them, not just the white ones. So the deck has a pretty low curve, so we include free cards like Ornithopter, which is 0 mana for a 0/2 flyer, um, along with cards that are usually free or almost free, like Frogmite, which is 4 for a 2/2 with affinity for artifacts, and Halo Hopper, which is 3 for a 3/2 with Convoke. So Convoke says that you can use your creatures to help cast your spells. Each creature you tap while casting a spell with Convoke pays for 1 generic mana or 1 mana of that creature's color of the Convoke creature's mana cost. So to increase our artifact count a little bit, to make it more likely that we can cast Frogmite for 1 or 0, we are running 4 copies of Novice Inspector and 4 copies of Throbbing Inspector, which of course are functionally identical. They're both 1 white for a 1/2 that says when it enters the battlefield, create a clue token. So the clue tokens are artifacts that say pay 2, sack them, draw a card. So this is very nice in that we get, for the price of 1 mana, we get a 1/2 creature and we get an artifact. And then later on, we can sack that artifact to draw cards and refill our hand. And then our final 1-drop is 4 copies of Lunarch Veteran, which is 1 white for a 1/1. It says whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life, and it has a disturb cost of 2 mana. So you may cast it from your graveyard transformed for its disturb cost, and its transformed side is a 1/1 flying spirit cleric that says whenever another creature you control leaves the battlefield, you gain 1 life, and if it would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So in a deck where we're flooding the board, we're naturally gaining quite a lot of life off Lunarch Veteran. And then what's nice about it is that if they kill it, we can just cast it disturbed from the graveyard, so it kind of replaces itself. And then we also will gain usually a little bit of life off the transformed side as well. Then in the 2-drop slot at the moment, we are running 4 copies of Raise the Alarm, which is 2 mana for an instant that says create 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. And then we're also running 2 copies of Gather the Townsfolk, which is very similar, although it's a sorcery, so not instant speed. But it's 2 mana and it says create 2 1/1 white human creature tokens, and it has Fateful Hour. So if you have 5 or less life, it instead creates 5 tokens. So late in the game, it becomes more powerful. If you are in dire straits and your life is, dangerously low, this becomes better. Then in the 3-drop slots, well, first up, as I mentioned, we have Halo Hopper, which is pretty cool. So it's just 3 for a 3/2 with Convoke. So if you tap 3 creatures, this is, 0 mana, and that doesn't require any mana from your lands, which is nice. Um, and then essentially the centerpiece of our deck, our main threat and our main Convoke payoff is Martyr's Soul, a pretty cool card from Modern Horizons 1. So it's 3 mana for a 3/2 with Convoke, and it says when it enters the battlefield, if you control no tapped lands, put 2+1/+1 counters on it. So if you cast this purely with Convoke, using your creatures rather than your lands, then it becomes 3 mana for a 5/4, which is obviously a very aggressive body, which is able to go toe-to-toe with Talarian Terrors, Murn Forces, Bayou Graphs, just the fatties that are in the format. So this is our main card in a sense, and yeah, the centerpiece of our deck and our main way of dishing out damage, other than going wide with the Righteous Charge. And then finally, at the top of our curve, we have Will Forged Golem, which is just 6 for a 4/4 with Convoke. Again, it's a pretty large body at a decent rate in this deck. I have also tested out using the card uh, Conclave Phalanx, which is 5 for a 2/4 with Convoke. That says when it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life for each creature you control, which is obviously super good in this shell and gains us a ton of life. The problem with that creature, though, is that it's a 2/4 for 5, so it's just not a very aggressive body, although the 4 toughness does make it immune to lightning bolts, etc. But in this current version of the list, I have cut it. In the sideboard, nothing too crazy. The sideboard's pretty rough, so I'm open to suggestions on that. But we're running Prismatic Strands. Against artifact decks, we're running Dust to Dust. Then to kind of protect us from damage-based board wipes like Breath Weapon, we have Lumithread Field, which is an enchantment that says creatures you control get +0/+1, costs 2 mana. So that just pumps their toughness. It brings like the 2 toughness creatures out of Breath Weapon range, which is pretty nice. And then we can also morph it as a creature, so you can pay 3 mana to cast it as a 2/2, and you can pay 2 to, turn it face up at any time. But you'll mainly be using it as an enchantment, because obviously the enchantment can't be killed through direct damage. So if they board wipe you, they have to have removal for the enchantment, or else they're not going to be able to board wipe you. And obviously red struggles with enchantment removal. Then we are running 1 copy of Obsidian Acolyte for the black decks, 2 mana for a 1/1 with protection from black, and it has pay 1 white, target creature gains protection from black until end of turn. So this card is incredibly annoying for black decks. I hate playing against this card when I'm running black decks, hence why I'm running it in my white deck. And then Crimson Acolyte is the same card, but it applies to red, not black. So there you have it. That is the rundown of the deck as it stands. I've enjoyed the deck a lot. It's felt pretty powerful. I did post a match that we won in testing, which was pretty cool. So I will pass it off to you. Please let me know how you would tweak or improve the deck. I do think it's kind of a little rough and open to improvement at this stage, but I do like the playstyle a lot. And I do find it a little bit flavorful. I like the cards that we play with. I'm a big fan of the Martyr's Soul. So, yeah, just let me know if you have suggestions for ways the deck could be improved. And I will end it there. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.